Me they couldn't afford to help save my 7-year-old daughter's life. They said money was tight, that they were living on a fixed income, that everything they had was tied up in retirement accounts. 2 months later, I discovered they had co-signed a $1.25 million Ocean View condo in Brickell, Miami for my brother Lucas. The purchase agreement had been signed just 2 weeks before my daughter's heart finally gave out. They didn't know I kept everything. Every receipt, every email, every text message. 63 pages of proof. Last month, Lucas collapsed at his office in Miami. Acute myeloid leukemia. The doctors at Jackson Memorial Hospital said he needed a bone marrow transplant. A perfect 10 out of 10 HLA match. My mother called me for the first time in 4 years. She was crying. "Melissa, you're his only chance." What happened after that changed everything they thought they knew about me. But to understand why, I have to take you back, to when I still believed my parents loved both of their children the same. I was born in 1990. Lucas came first, 4 years earlier, in 1986. We grew up in Westfield, New Jersey, one of those polished suburbs where every driveway had 2 cars and every high school senior seemed Ivy League bound. My father, Gregory Stone, was a CPA at a mid-sized firm. My mother, Hanya Stone, was a regional vice president at Bank of America. On the outside, we looked like a holiday card family. Stable, comfortable, predictable. But if you looked at the numbers, and eventually I did, you'd see the pattern. Lucas's college fund, $34,000. Mine, $8,200. I found the statements years later while helping them transfer files to a new laptop. I remember staring at those balances, my stomach tightening. When I asked my mom about it, trying to keep my voice casual, she smiled and said, "Honey, Lucas is older. We had more time to save for him. Don't worry, we'll help you too." They helped, with loans. I graduated from Rutgers in 2012 with $61,000 in student debt. Lucas graduated from Princeton in 2008, debt-free, with a position at Goldman Sachs' private wealth division practically waiting for him. Christmas 1998 still lives in my memory. I was 8. Lucas was 12. He tore open wrapping paper to reveal a brand new Nintendo 64 with 4 games. I unwrapped a used bike from a garage sale. My parents had spray painted it purple because they knew it was my favorite color. "We thought you'd enjoy the exercise," my dad said, smiling. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself love wasn't measured in dollars. I was wrong. Family dinners slowly turned into celebrations of Lucas's success. Thanksgiving 2015, I had just started working for a nonprofit housing advocacy group in Princeton. I made $41,000 a year. I was proud of that work. It mattered. My mom set down the turkey and beamed at Lucas. "Tell everyone about the deal, sweetheart." Lucas leaned back comfortably. "Closed a $12 million acquisition last week. Biggest in our division this quarter." Applause filled the room. My dad lifted his wine glass. "That's my son." Then my mom glanced at me, almost as an afterthought. "Melissa, how's the nonprofit going?" The way she said nonprofit made it sound like a hobby. "It's good," I said. "We housed 3 families this month." "That's nice, honey." Lucas's bonus that year was $340,000. He mentioned it the way someone mentions the weather. When I met Daniel Reed in 2013, my parents immediately asked what he earned. Daniel was a civil infrastructure engineer making around $60,000. Steady, responsible, kind. We fell in love fast. The kind of love that feels like you've been searching for each other your whole life. When Lucas started dating Sophia Grant, a corporate attorney with a polished resume and powerful connections, my parents wanted to know who she knew. See the difference? Daniel proposed in 2014. We had been together just a year. I was pregnant. It wasn't planned, but we were ready. Nervous, yes, but ready. My parents were less enthusiastic. At my baby shower, my mother forced a smile. Well, at least Daniel has a steady job. Engineering is practical. My father gave us a $500 check as a baby gift. Later, I found out he had given Lucas $15,000 toward his first car that same month. My daughter, Ava Stone, was born on April 3rd, 2014. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, born at Princeton Medical Center in New Jersey. She had my green eyes, bright and curious, and Daniel's quiet, gentle smile. The kind of smile that makes you smile back, even on your worst day. My parents came to see her twice during her first year. Lucas mailed a $50 gift card. I told myself it was fine. They were busy. Lucas was building his career. I was building my family. Daniel and I had each other. We had Ava. That was enough. At least, that's what I told myself for 7 years. And then Ava got sick. May 12th, 2021. That was the day everything started to unravel. Ava fainted at school. Her second-grade teacher called me while I was in the middle of a case review meeting, helping a single mother find emergency housing. My phone vibrated on the table. I almost ignored it. We weren't supposed to take personal calls during sessions, but something made me glance down. Mrs. Stone? This is Ann Patterson, Ava's teacher. She fainted during recess. The nurse is with her, but I think you should come. I was in my car within 3 minutes. When I arrived, Ava was sitting in the nurse's office, pale, a little shaky, but she smiled when she saw me. Hi, Mommy. I'm okay. I just got dizzy. The nurse gently pulled me aside. Her heart rate was high, 130 beats per minute. She says she's been tired a lot lately. You may want to get that checked out. We went straight to the ER that afternoon. They ran an EKG. The doctor, young, exhausted looking, but kind, came back with results that made my stomach drop. Mrs. Stone, Ava's heart rhythm is abnormal. I'm referring you to pediatric cardiology at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. They'll need to run an echocardiogram. Shope. You don't get referred there for nothing. Our appointment was May 18th. 6 days of barely sleeping. 6 days of watching Ava play with her dolls and laugh at cartoons, completely unaware that something inside her chest wasn't working the way it should. Daniel took the day off work. We drove to CHOP together, hands clasped tight in the front seat. Ava hummed a song from Frozen in the back like it was any other Tuesday. Room 7B, Pediatric Cardiology. Dr. Karen Whitmore. She was in her late 40s, streaks of silver in her dark hair, steady and composed. The kind of presence that keeps parents from completely falling apart. She performed the echocardiogram herself, sliding the wand across Ava's small chest while Ava stared at the screen in fascination. Is that my heart? Ava asked. It is, Dr. Whitmore replied gently. Pretty amazing, isn't it? When the test was done, she asked if Ava wanted to pick out a sticker in the waiting room. A nurse took her hand. Then Dr. Whitmore sat down across from us. Mr. and Mrs. Stone, Ava has dilated cardiomyopathy. The words felt clinical, distant. Her heart muscle is enlarged. It isn't pumping efficiently. Her ejection fraction, the percentage of blood her heart pushes out with each beat, is 28%. A normal range is between 50 and 70. I heard her. I just didn't understand. What does that mean? I asked. It means her heart is failing. Daniel made a sound beside me. Not quite a gasp, more like the air had been knocked out of him. Dr. Whitmore continued, her tone calm but compassionate. This condition can be genetic. It's progressive. Without intervention, her heart function will continue to decline. What kind of intervention? I managed. She didn't hesitate. She needs a heart transplant. The room felt like it tilted sideways. A transplant? I repeated. Yes, the national transplant list averages about 18 months, but Ava's condition is severe enough that we can request priority status. That significantly increases her chances of receiving a donor heart in time. In time, Daniel echoed faintly. To list her formally, Dr. Whitmore continued, we'll need to submit documentation and a deposit. Daniel blinked. A deposit? She slid a paper across the desk. I stared at it. Transplant listing deposit. $178,000. Estimated insurance coverage, $37,000. Patient responsibility, $178,000. Deposit required prior to listing. My vision narrowed to that number. $178,000. I know this is overwhelming, Dr. Whitmore said quietly. The total cost of transplant surgery and first-year follow-up is approximately $1.4 million, but insurance will cover most of it once she's officially listed, Dr. Whitmore said gently. The deposit is what gets her onto that list. Without it, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Without the transplant, I whispered, what happens? Dr. Whitmore held my gaze. 6 months to a year, possibly less. I'm so sorry. With the transplant, her 5-year survival rate is around 83%. 83%. Not a guarantee, but a chance. A real chance. We need to move quickly, she continued. I strongly recommend listing her within the next 8 weeks, sooner if possible. 8 weeks to come up with $178,000. I looked at Daniel. He was staring at the paperwork like it was written in another language. We drove home in silence. Ava fell asleep in the back seat. That night, after we tucked her in the bed, Daniel and I sat at our kitchen table and went through everything. Savings, $12,000. Daniel's 401k. He could withdraw up to $50,000, but after taxes and penalties, we'd take home maybe $42,000. My 401k, $18,000. Home equity? None. We were renting. Credit cards, already strained from hospital bills over the years. We created a GoFundMe. Daniel wrote the description. I couldn't. Every sentence I tried to type felt like begging. Our daughter Ava, age 7, needs a heart transplant to survive. Please help us give her a chance. We shared it everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, church groups, Daniel's coworkers, my coworkers, every parent at Ava's school. 3 weeks later, we had raised $55,000 from over 1,000 people. Friends, neighbors, strangers sending $10, $20, $50, along with messages that said, praying for Ava, and stay strong, and God bless. I cried reading every single one. But we were still $123,000 short. June 3rd, 2 a.m. We had been awake for hours, calling banks, researching medical loans, looking for anything. I called 15 lenders, Daniel said quietly. Medical debt isn't considered collateral. They all said no. I stared at the number on the page. $123,000. Mel, Daniel said softly, we need your parents. I hadn't asked my parents for money in 15 years. Not since college, when they made it clear that needing help was a sign of poor planning. But this wasn't about me. This was about Ava. I picked up the phone. My hands were shaking. June 8th, 2021, 7:14 p.m. The call lasted 11 minutes. I know because I checked the call log afterward, over and over, trying to understand how it fell apart so quickly. Mom? Melissa, hi, sweetheart, how are you? Not great. I need to talk to you about something important. Is Dad there? He's watching the news. What's going on? I told her everything. The diagnosis, the 28% ejection fraction, the transplant, the $178,000 deposit, the fundraiser, the $123,000 we still needed. There was a long silence. Oh, honey, she said finally. Her voice had that careful sympathy people use when they're preparing to say no. That's devastating. I'm so sorry. Have you tried a GoFundMe? Those can work wonders. We did, I said. We've raised $55,000. We're still short. What about insurance? They'll cover the surgery once she's listed, but we need the deposit to list her. Another pause. Let me talk to your father, she said. We'll call you back. They called 4 days later, June 12th, 7:03 p.m. My father did all the talking. My mother stayed quiet in the background. Melissa, your mother explained the situation. We're heartbroken for you, truly, but we have to be honest about our financial reality. I tightened my grip on the phone. Okay. We retired early in 2019. We're living on Social Security, pensions, and our investment accounts. Most of our funds are tied up in index portfolios. The market has been volatile. If we liquidate now, we'd lose a significant portion of principal. We can't jeopardize our retirement. Dad, I said, my voice cracking, Ava is 7 years old. I understand that, he replied evenly. But we have to think long term. We're 66 and 64. What if we get sick? What if we need long-term care? We can't just drain everything. My throat tightened. How much do you actually have in savings? A pause. That's not relevant. How much? Melissa, we're not discussing that. I need $123,000 to save my daughter's life. We don't have liquidity, he said firmly. I'm begging you. I'm sorry, Melissa. We wish we could help, but we can't. And then he hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, waiting for the moment to feel real. It didn't. Daniel called in the next day. I didn't know at the time. He kept it from me for months because he didn't want to add another layer of hurt. Daniel called my father directly. June 22nd, 4:32 p.m. The call lasted 6 minutes. According to Daniel, my father's tone was colder than it had been with me. Son, we understand you're afraid, he said. But we can't enable financial irresponsibility. You need to explore other options. Then he added something that still makes my stomach turn. What about Ava's biological father? Daniel had gone silent. Oh, my father continued, almost casually. You're not him, are you? Daniel didn't tell me about that conversation until 3 months after Ava died. We were lying awake in bed, unable to sleep, and he said it like it had been sitting on his chest the whole time. I didn't cry. I think I was past crying by then. But I remember thinking, my father said that to my husband while our daughter was dying. On June 28th, Daniel and I flew to Naples, Florida. We charged the tickets to a credit card we couldn't afford to use. We had to try one more time, face to face. My parents' condo was on a quiet street in Naples. I remember the address because I looked it up later. Estimated value? In the low 400s. They had downsized after retiring, sold the house in Westfield, and moved south for the sunshine and tax breaks. My mom opened the door, surprised. "Melissa? Daniel? You didn't tell us you were coming." It was last minute," I said. She hugged me. She still smelled like lavender lotion, the same one she'd worn my entire childhood. For a split second, I was 8 years old again, convinced my mother could fix anything. We sat in their living room, new sectional, a Peloton bike tucked into the guest room, a built-in wine fridge glowing in the kitchen. I explained everything again. The deadline, the deposit, the clock ticking. My mom cried. Real tears. She held my hand. "If we had it, we'd give it to you," she said. "You know that. But we're older now. What if we get sick? What if we need long-term care? What if Ava dies?" I whispered. The flat-screen TV, the wine fridge. No money for Ava. We flew home the next morning. 2 weeks later, on July 8th, I convinced them to visit Ava at CHOP. I thought. She stretched out her arms. My mom leaned over carefully, mindful of the IV lines. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" "I'm okay," Ava said brightly. "The doctors say I'm getting a new heart, like an upgrade." My mom smiled through tears. "That's right, baby. You're so strong." My father sat at the edge of her bed. "You're a fighter, Ava Bear." They stayed for 2.5 hours. They read her a book, watched her favorite show, laughed at her jokes, and then, in the hospital parking lot, I asked again, "Dad, please." He shook his head. "Melissa, we've already discussed this." They got into their rental car and drove away. The deadline was 7 days away. July 15th, 2021. I called Dr. Whitmore. "We didn't make it," I said. My voice sounded hollow, detached. "We don't have the money." There was a pause on the other end. "I'm so sorry, Melissa," she said gently. "What happens now?" "We'll continue supportive care. We'll manage her symptoms, keep her comfortable." Comfortable. Not alive. Comfortable. "She's 7 years old," I said. "I know," Dr. Whitmore replied softly. "I'm so sorry." That night, Ava asked me when she would get her new heart. I lied. "Soon," I told her. August was brutal. On August 22nd, her ejection fraction dropped to 18%. She lost 9 pounds in 3 weeks. She was tired all the time. She would start playing with her dolls and have to stop to catch her breath. One afternoon, she lay on the couch, her head in my lap. "Mommy," she said quietly, "I'm tired all the time. Is that normal?" I forced a smile and stroked her hair. "Your heart is working really hard, baby. You're so strong." She looked up at me with those green eyes. "When do I get my new heart?" "Soon," I whispered. But we both knew. The doctors had told us weeks, not months. I called my parents one last time on August 19th. No answer. I didn't leave a message. On September 8th, Ava was admitted to the ICU. Her heart was failing. Daniel and I didn't leave her side. We held her hands, we told her stories, we sang her favorite songs. At 6:31 a.m. on September 9th, 2021, her heart stopped. They tried to resuscitate her. I watched them perform chest compressions on my 7-year-old daughter's tiny body. I watched the monitors. I watched the doctors exchange looks. At 6:47 a.m., Dr. Whitmore looked at me. Time of death? 6:47 a.m. "I'm so deeply sorry," Dr. Whitmore said softly. Daniel collapsed into sobs. His whole body shook. I sat there holding Ava's hand. It was still warm. I didn't cry. I couldn't. It felt like my body had shut something off just to survive the moment. I held her hand for 40 minutes before a nurse gently told me I had to let go. I didn't call my parents. Lucas did. I don't know how he found out. Maybe the hospital, maybe Daniel's parents. It doesn't matter. They flew in for the funeral. September 14th, 2021. Princeton Cemetery, New Jersey. More than 300 people came. Friends, coworkers, parents from Ava's school, members of our church, even strangers who had donated to the fundraiser and had never met us in person. My parents sat in the back row. They didn't sit with me. They didn't approach me before the service. They stayed in the back. My mother wore a black designer suit. My father had on his navy blazer, the one he saved for formal occasions. After the burial, my mother walked toward me. "Honey," she said, reaching for my hand, "we're so sorry. If there's anything we can do." I pulled my hand away. "You could have done something," I said. My voice sounded empty, hollow. "You didn't." "That's not fair," she whispered. "Leave." My father started to speak, but I turned and walked away. 2 days later, a condolence card arrived in the mail. Inside was a check for $500. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deposited it and donated every dollar to CHOP's Pediatric Cardiac Fund in Ava's name. I didn't speak to my parents again, or at least I thought I didn't. For 2 months after Ava died, I barely functioned. I quit my job. I couldn't advocate for other families when I couldn't save my own child. Daniel went back to work after 3 weeks. We still had bills. Someone had to keep the lights on. I stayed home. I sat in Ava's room. I stared at her toys. I folded and refolded her clothes. Sleep disappeared. Insomnia became normal. I would lie awake until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, replaying every conversation with my parents, every plea, every door that closed. November 19th, 2021, 2:14 a.m. I was scrolling through Facebook in the dark. I don't even know why. Habit, maybe? Something to do with my hands. That's when I saw my mother's post. Hanya Stone. Beautiful weekend visiting Lucas's stunning new waterfront home. So proud of our successful son. #blessed, #Miami life, #proud mom. There were 6 photos. Lucas and Sophia standing on a balcony overlooking the water, the skyline behind them, floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, polished hardwood floors, a view that looked expensive. Gorgeous! What a view! So happy for him! I stared at the screen. Lucas bought a condo. I closed the app. I put my phone down. I didn't sleep. For weeks, I couldn't shake the image. That balcony. The pride in my mother's caption. On January 14th, 2022, at 3:28 a.m., I opened my laptop. I'm not sure what I was looking for. Confirmation, maybe? Or something to match the anger simmering under my skin. I searched Brickell, Miami, waterfront condos. I scrolled through listings, and then I found it. Luxury high-rise units starting at over $1 million. I clicked into the building website. Corner unit, top floor, ocean view. It matched the photos exactly. Then I did something I had never done before. I searched public property records for Miami-Dade County. Anyone can access them. I typed in the address. The page loaded. Owner, Lucas Gregory Stone. Purchase date, October 15th, 2021. Sale price, $1,250,000. My hand started shaking. October 15th. 1 month and 6 days after Ava died. I clicked View Transaction History. That's when I saw it. Purchase agreement signed, August 23rd, 2021. Down payment, $250,000. Wire transfer, $232,000. From Gregory Stone and Hanya Stone, joint account. August 23rd, 2 weeks before my daughter died. They were signing mortgage documents while I was begging God to keep Ava's heart beating. I printed everything: property records, deed filings, mortgage disclosures, wire transfer confirmations. 63 pages. I put them in a 3-ring binder. I didn't cry. I was past crying. The next evening, Daniel came home and found me at the kitchen table surrounded by paperwork. "What is all this?" he asked. I slid the binder across to him. He read in silence. I watched his expression shift. Confusion, shock, then rage. "They had the money," Daniel said quietly, then louder, almost disbelieving. "Melissa, they had the money." "Keep reading." He flipped to page 18. My father's Fidelity account statement, July 2021. Balance, $920,000. Page 19. My mother's Charles Schwab retirement rollover. Balance, $710,000. Over $1.6 million in retirement assets, but no liquidity. No help for Ava. That's when Daniel found the email. We still had an old iPad in the kitchen, the one we used years ago to share family photos. It was still logged into my mother's email account. She had never signed out. She had never deleted anything. Daniel scrolled back to August 2021, and there it was. From Gregory Stone to Hanya Stone, Lucas Stone. Date, August 10th, 2021, 9:14 p.m. Subject, Brickell Investment Opportunity. Lucas, we've reviewed the financial projections. The Miami market is strong. If we move forward with a $250,000 down payment, your equity appreciation outlook is solid. Estimated 12 to 15% ROI within 3 years, which significantly outperforms our current bond allocations. Your mother and I have discussed Melissa's situation at length. We want to help, of course, but we must be realistic. The transplant is a gamble. Even with surgery, long-term survival rates are uncertain. Liquidating a large portion of our retirement portfolio for a maybe is not prudent. Your condo, however, is a tangible asset, a guaranteed return. Family wealth should remain in the family. Let's proceed and close. Daniel handed me the iPad. I read the email once, then again, then a third time. Family wealth should remain in the family. I wasn't family. Ava wasn't family. We were a gamble, a maybe, a bad investment. Lucas's ocean view was the safe bet. I opened my laptop and built a spreadsheet. I needed to see it clearly, chronologically, without emotion. July 15th, 2021. Transplant listing deadline missed. We were $123,000 short. August 10th, 2021. Email approving Lucas's condo investment. August 23rd, 2021. Purchase agreement signed. Down payment, $250,000. August 25th, 2021. $232,000 wire transfer from Gregory and Hanya Stone's joint account. September 9th, 2021. Ava died. October 15th, 2021. Deed filed. Lucas officially owned the condo. They had the money. They always had the money. They chose his skyline over her heartbeat. I looked at Daniel. "I want to have dinner with them." He blinked. "What?" "A family dinner. All of us. You, me, my parents, Lucas, Sophia." I want to sit across from them. Mel, I want them to look me in the eye. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Okay. I called my mother on February 1st, 2022. She answered on the second ring, breathless. Melissa? Hi, Mom. Oh my God. I didn't think you'd ever... Her voice cracked. How are you? I've been thinking, I said calmly. About everything. About us. I want to try to heal. Silence. Then I heard her crying. Yes. Yes, of course. Oh, Melissa, I'm so glad. We can all sit down and talk. Start over. I think we should have dinner, I continued. All of us. Absolutely. I'll call Lucas. We can do it here in Naples. When can you come? How about next weekend, Saturday the 12th? Perfect. I'll make your favorite. You don't have to. I insist. We booked flights that night. Daniel asked if I was sure. I showed him the binder. I'm sure. February 12th, 2022, 6 p.m. We pulled up to my parents' house in Naples. Lucas's rental car was already in the driveway, a white Tesla. My mother opened the door before we knocked. She wrapped her arms around me, sobbing. I'm so glad you're here, she whispered. I stood stiff for a moment. Then I patted her back lightly. Hi, Mom. My father stepped into the doorway behind her. He looked thinner, grayer. Melissa, he said, extending his hand. I shook it. Lucas and Sophia were in the living room. Lucas stood when we entered. Hey, sis, he said awkwardly. Long time. Yeah, I replied. Long time. Sophia smiled politely. It's good to see you, Melissa. We sat down at the table. 6 plates, glazed salmon, roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes. A bottle of Chardonnay on the table. The first 15 minutes were small talk. My father asked Daniel about work. Daniel kept his answers short. My mother asked if we were eating enough. Sophia talked about Miami, about a new corporate case her firm was handling. Lucas mentioned his promotion, youngest vice president in his division. Congratulations, I said flatly. My father turned to me. And you, Melissa? Weren't you working at that family services organization? I quit, I said. After Ava died, I couldn't help other families when I couldn't save my own. Silence. Forks scraping plates. 8 seconds, I counted. My mother cleared her throat. The weather's been lovely here, she said quickly. Much warmer than New Jersey. And Lucas's place is just breathtaking. Right on the water. I took a sip of wine. I saw the photos, I said. Oh, you did? My mother smiled. Isn't it gorgeous? It is, I replied. I turned to Lucas. When did you buy it? He hesitated. Last fall. We closed in October, I think. October 15th, I said. He blinked. Yeah, that sounds right. And when did you make the offer? August, maybe? Why? I reached into my bag and pulled out the binder. I placed the binder in the center of the table. Every fork stopped moving. I opened it to the first page. This, I said evenly, is Ava's death certificate. September 9th, 2021. Cause of death, cardiac arrest secondary to dilated cardiomyopathy. Signed by Dr. Karen Whitmore. My mother's face drained of color. I turned the page. This is the Miami-Dade property record for Lucas's condo, Brickell. Purchase price, $1,250,000. Down payment, $250,000. Co-signers, Gregory and Hanya Stone. My father's jaw tightened. Page 5, I continued, my voice steady. Wire transfer confirmation. August 25th, 2021. $232,000 transferred from your joint account to Lucas's escrow. Sophia stared down at her plate. Page 12. I slid the printed email across the table. August 10th. Subject: Brickell investment opportunity. And then I read it, word for word. When I reached the line, family wealth should remain in the family, my voice wavered. But I kept going. Page 18. Dad, your Fidelity account. July 2021. Balance, $920,000. Page 19. Mom, your Schwab retirement rollover, $710,000. You had over $1.5 million. My father stood abruptly. Melissa, this is taken out of context. You told me you had no liquidity. We didn't. You wired $232,000 6 weeks after telling me you were broke. My mother was crying now. We were trying to think long term, she said. For the family. Ava was family. For the first time, my voice rose. She was 7 years old. Lucas finally spoke, carefully. Mel, I didn't know all the details. Mom and Dad made a financial decision. The condo was an investment. Real estate appreciates. Medical costs are unpredictable. There are no guarantees. I looked at him. Say that again? He hesitated. I just mean, statistically, her odds weren't great. With the transplant, her 5-year survival rate was 83%. That's still a risk, he said. The condo has a measurable return. She was 7. Lucas's ears turned red. Sophia reached for his arm. Lucas, stop. But my father was standing now, face flushed. You want honesty? He snapped. Fine. We made a choice. Ava's survival odds were uncertain. We are retired. We have to protect our future. Lucas's property was a stable asset. We chose the responsible financial decision. I stared at him. The responsible financial decision. Yes, he said, louder now. And even if we had given you the money, there's no guarantee Ava would have survived. Children with advanced cardiomyopathy don't always make it. We would have drained hundreds of thousands on a... He stopped, but it was too late. On a what? I asked quietly. Silence. Say it. He didn't, but we all heard it anyway. Daniel stood so quickly his chair scraped against the tile. Sophia dropped her fork. My mother gasped. I stood slowly. You're right, Dad, I said. My voice was calm now, cold. Ava is dead, and you decided her life wasn't worth the risk. That's not what You had the money. You chose a balcony view over her heartbeat. You chose granite countertops over her breath. You chose your son over your granddaughter. My mother was sobbing. I picked up my bag. Here's what happens now. You will never contact me again. No calls, no texts, no emails. Do not come to my house. If I see you in public, I will walk the other way. Melissa, my mother pleaded. You are not my parents. You are investors who decided my child wasn't a sound investment. I looked at Lucas. Enjoy the view. Every sunrise over Biscayne Bay. Remember what it cost. You financed that balcony with her life. His face crumpled. I turned to Daniel. We're leaving. I left the binder on the table. Keep it, I said. Frame it. We walked out. Behind us, my mother was crying. My father was shouting something I didn't bother to hear. The door closed, and the silence stretched on for years. The first week was relentless. My mother called 47 times in 3 days. I didn't answer. I blocked her number. My father sent emails, I saw the subject lines in the preview pane before deleting them unread. Please read this. I'm sorry. Let me explain. Melissa, please. I marked them as spam. Lucas texted once. We need to talk. Blocked. On February 21st, I changed my phone number. I didn't tell them. The letters started in March. Handwritten, cream stationery, my mother's looping cursive. I would have recognized it anywhere. I wrote, "Return to sender," across the envelope and dropped it back in the mailbox. The second letter arrived a week later. Same envelope, same cream stationery. I wrote, "Return to sender," across it and dropped it back in the mailbox. By May, I had sent back 11 letters. The 11th came on April 3rd, Ava's birthday. She would have turned 8. I didn't return that one. I burned it in the kitchen sink. Daniel found me standing there, watching the paper curl and blacken into ash. He didn't say a word. He just wrapped his arms around me. I started therapy at the end of February. Dr. Elaine Foster. Tuesdays at 4 p.m., $120 a session. Insurance covered most of it. She had kind eyes and silver hair pulled into a low bun. She didn't push. She didn't judge. She just listened. During our third session, she asked softly, "Are you grieving your daughter or your family?" "Both," I said. "You're allowed to grieve both losses." "I only lost one," I replied. "The other was never really mine." She let that sit in the room for a moment. "Do you think you'll ever forgive them?" "No." "You don't have to," she said. I felt lighter walking out of that office. In June, I went back to work, not to my old nonprofit. I couldn't go back there. Too many memories of who I had been before everything broke. I joined the Philadelphia Coalition for Child Advocacy, $61,000 a year, working with children in the foster system, kids who had been failed by the very people meant to protect them. I understood them. In April 2023, Lucas tried to contact me through LinkedIn. I saw the message in my requests folder. I didn't open it. I hovered over the preview. "Mel, I know you won't read this, but I have to try. I didn't understand how serious things were with Ava. I was focused on work. I'm sorry. I want to make it right." And make it right. There was no right. There was only gone. I deleted it. Daniel and I built something new. Date nights came back. Laughter came back. Slowly, carefully. We planted a cherry blossom tree in our backyard for Ava. It blooms every April. For a while, I believed I was done with them. Done with choices. Done with the past. Nearly 4 years after I walked out of that dinner in Naples, my phone rang. Lucas collapsed in a conference room at his firm in Miami that afternoon. I didn't know that yet. I was at my desk, working on a placement report for a 14-year-old girl who had cycled through 6 foster homes in 2 years. I was trying to find her somewhere that would finally stick. My phone lit up. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Hello?" Heavy breathing. Then, "Melissa, please don't hang up." My mother's voice. I froze. "It's Mom. I know you don't want to talk to me. I know. But it's Lucas. He collapsed. He has leukemia. The doctors say it's aggressive. They said he needs a bone marrow transplant. They said you're his only chance. Please, Melissa. I'm begging you. He's your brother." My grip tightened around the phone. "How did you get this number?" "That doesn't matter. Please." "I don't have a brother." And I hung up. I sat at my desk staring at the wall for a long time. Daniel found me in the same position that evening. "What happened?" I told him. What are you going to do? Nothing. He didn't argue, but I could see it in his eyes. He didn't think it would end there. 2 days later, my phone rang again. Different number. Ms. Stone? This is Olivia Harper. I'm a patient advocate at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. I'm calling regarding your brother, Lucas Stone. Her voice was steady, professional, no pressure. I didn't hang up. Lucas was admitted 5 days ago with acute myeloid leukemia. It's an aggressive subtype. He has started chemotherapy, but without a bone marrow transplant, his prognosis is extremely poor. I said nothing. We've tested all immediate family members, his wife, both parents. None are compatible donors. A pause. And you're calling me because? I said quietly. Because the preliminary assessment results suggest you may be a perfect HLA match. A perfect 10 out of 10. And you'd like me to be evaluated? Yes, she said gently. We're asking if you would consider testing. The room felt very still. 4 years ago, they told me a life was a gamble. Now they were asking me to become one. Siblings have about a 25% chance of being a compatible match. He's your only sibling. Would you be willing to undergo HLA typing? It's just a blood test. There's no obligation beyond that. Olivia continued speaking. I closed my eyes. If I say no? There was a pause. We'll continue searching the National Registry, but the odds of finding a perfect 10 out of 10 match from an unrelated donor are less than 1%. Without a transplant, his prognosis is 4 to 8 weeks. 4 to 8 weeks. Ava had 6 months to a year. My parents had decided that wasn't worth the risk. I'll think about it, I said. Of course, she replied. But, Miss Stone, time isn't something he has much of. I agreed to the test. I told myself it was just information, just data. 9 days later, December 12th, 8 a.m., LabCorp in Philadelphia. 3 vials of blood. That was it. The results came back 3 days later. Olivia called on December 15th. Miss Stone, you're a perfect 10 out of 10 Hall match. I didn't speak. That level of compatibility between siblings is rare. Around 3%. You are his best chance at survival. 3%. My father had said 83% wasn't good enough odds for Ava, and here I was. A 3% miracle. What happens if I say no? I asked. We will continue searching the registry, she said carefully. But with his subtype of AML, without a transplant, he likely has weeks, maybe a month if he responds well to chemotherapy. With a transplant from you, his 5-year survival rate rises to approximately 65 to 75%. 65 to 75. Better odds than my daughter had. I need time, I said. Of course, but time is the one thing he doesn't have. I hung up, and for 4 nights, December 15th through the 19th, I didn't sleep. Daniel didn't pressure me. He just stayed close, made sure I ate, sat beside me when the weight of it all pressed too hard against my chest. I kept thinking about Ava. What would she want me to do? I knew the answer. I hated it. On December 17th, I called Dr. Foster and asked for an emergency session. She cleared her schedule. We sat in her office, winter light filtering through the window, and I told her everything. What's holding you back? She asked. If I save him, I said, they win. Who wins? My parents? Lucas? They get what they want. They always get what they want. And if you don't save him? I was quiet for a long time. I become them. Dr. Foster leaned forward slightly. Melissa, if Ava were sitting in this room right now, what would you tell her? I closed my eyes. I could see her. 7 years old, bright green eyes, that smile. I'd tell her I love her, I whispered. I'd tell her she was the best thing I ever did. And what would she tell you? I didn't need to think. She'd tell me to save him. On December 19th at 9 a.m., I called Olivia. I'll do it, I said. I'll donate. But I have conditions. Of course, she replied. What do you need? I don't want to see my parents before the procedure. I don't want to see Lucas. I'll do this, and then I'm done. We can arrange separate waiting areas and private recovery. You won't have to see anyone you don't want to see. Okay. Thank you, Miss Stone, she said softly. You're saving his life. I'm not doing it for him, I replied. The procedure was scheduled for December 27th. Daniel and I flew to Miami on the 26th for pre-op. Are you sure? He asked one last time. I looked at him. Ava would do it, I said. So I will. If you've listened this far, thank you. I know this story is heavy. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to ask you something. If the people who hurt you needed you to save them, what would you do? Would you walk away? Or would you choose differently? Leave your thoughts below. I read every comment. The day before the procedure, December 26th, Daniel and I arrived at Jackson Memorial Hospital in Miami. Olivia had arranged everything. Private pre-op room, separate waiting area, security notified. I saw my mother once, briefly, in the hallway outside the surgical wing. She spotted me. Her face collapsed. Melissa, security stepped between us. Ma'am, you need to return to the family waiting area, the guard said firmly. Melissa, please, thank you. Thank you so much. My mother's voice broke behind me. I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking. Pre-op was on the second floor of Jackson Memorial Hospital, West Wing, room 214. The nurse explained everything in a steady, practiced tone. Bone marrow would be extracted from my pelvic bone under general anesthesia. The procedure would take about 4 hours. I'd stay overnight for observation. You're very brave, she said kindly. I'm not brave, I replied. I'm just not them. December 27th, 6 a.m. They wheeled me into the operating room. I counted backward from 10. I didn't make it past 7. I woke up around 11:30 a.m., groggy, heavy. My hip throbbed like I'd been hit with a bat. Daniel was sitting beside the bed. Hey, he said softly. Did it work? They got what they needed. Just over a liter. Lucas's transplant is tomorrow morning. I nodded and closed my eyes again. An hour later, a nurse checked my vitals. How's your pain? 1 to 10? 6. She adjusted the IV. You did something remarkable today. Please don't tell my family what room I'm in, I said. Already handled, she replied. That evening there was a knock on my door. I knew before I looked. Lucas stood in the hallway, thin, pale, bald from chemo. He looked 20 years older than the last time I'd seen him. Mel, he said quietly, I know you don't want to see me. I needed to say something before tomorrow. Please. I stayed in the doorway. I didn't invite him in. I don't deserve this, he said. I know that. You could have let me die. I would have understood. I didn't do this for you. I know, but I need you to hear me. I'm sorry for not standing up for you, for the condo, for Ava. I'm sorry for all of it. I looked at him for a long time. Okay. He blinked. That's it? What do you want me to say? I asked. That I forgive you? I don't. But I'm not going to let you die. Not because you're my brother. I paused. Because I'm not them. His eyes filled. Go back to your room. You have a transplant tomorrow. He nodded and turned to leave. Lucas? He looked back. Ava would have wanted me to save you. That's why I did it. He swallowed hard. I won't forget. 3 weeks later, I was back home in Philadelphia when Olivia called. Miss Stone, I wanted to update you. Lucas's engraftment is strong. His blast cell count is down to 2%. The transplant worked. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. He asked if he could have your contact information to thank you. No. Understood. But what you did, it was extraordinary. I did what Ava would have done, I said. That's all. I hung up. I sat on the couch staring at the wall. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel healed. But I felt lighter. 6 months later, Olivia called again. There's a letter for you, from your parents. They asked if I would forward it with your permission. I hesitated. Then I said yes. The envelope was thick. I almost didn't open it, but I did. Melissa, we don't expect forgiveness. We don't deserve it. We made a choice that shattered our family. Your father hasn't been the same since that night. Neither have I. We are in therapy, together and separately, trying to understand how we became people capable of what we did. Last month, we sold our Naples home. We donated the full proceeds, $440,000, to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia's Cardiac Transplant Fund in Ava's name. It won't bring her back. It won't undo our failure. But we needed you to know we were wrong. Profoundly wrong. If you ever want to talk, we are here. If you don't, we understand. We love you. We are so sorry. Mom and Dad. Attached was the official receipt from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia Foundation. $440,000. The Ava Stone Cardiac Transplant Fund. I called Dr. Foster. They donated the house money, I said. How does that make you feel? I don't know. That's okay. Should I respond? What do you want? I don't know that either. Then wait, she said gently. Wait until you do. I waited. One winter morning, I finally called my mother. She answered on the first ring. Melissa? Hi, Mom. Silence. Then quiet crying. I want to try something, I said carefully. Coffee, breakfast, at my house, you and Dad. Yes, she said immediately. Yes, when? Saturday the 10th, 10 a.m. We'll be there. On a Saturday morning in February, my parents stood on my porch. They looked older, smaller somehow. I opened the door. Come in. My mom hugged me. I stiffened for a moment. Then I let my arms rest lightly against her back. We sat at my kitchen table. Daniel had made coffee, scrambled eggs, toast, fruit, 4 plates, 4 chairs. At first, the silence was thick. Then, slowly, we began to talk. Not about Ava. Not yet. About small things. Work, the weather, Daniel's new project, my mom's book club. Ava's photo sat on the mantel behind them. Everyone saw it. No one mentioned it. But no one looked away either. When my parents stood to leave, my mom hesitated at the door. Can we do this again sometime? I thought about it. Maybe, I said. I'll let you know. My dad nodded, his voice quiet. That's more than we deserve. Thank you, Melissa. They stepped off the porch and walked to their car. Daniel slipped his arm around my waist. How do you feel? I watched the taillights disappear down the street. It's a start, I said. And then I cried. Not from grief, not from anger, from something softer, something that felt a little like hope. People ask me all the time if I've forgiven them. I don't have a clean answer. Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a process. Uneven, complicated. Some days I still wake up angry. Some days I see Ava's face in my mind and the unfairness of it all hits me like a wave. But I also see this. My parents sold their retirement home in Naples. They gave every dollar, $440,000, to CHOP, to help other children waiting for transplants, children who need a chance. Lucas calls once a month. I don't always answer. Sometimes I do. We talk about work, the weather, small, ordinary things. We aren't close. We may never be. And that's okay. I didn't save Lucas because I forgave him. I saved him because I'm not them. Because Ava taught me something they never understood. Love isn't transactional. It's not an investment strategy. It's not about guaranteed returns. It's a choice. They chose wrong. I chose differently. Last week, I visited Ava's grave. Princeton Cemetery, Valentine's Day. I brought pink roses, her favorite. I sat there for nearly an hour, talking to her like I always do. I told her about the breakfasts with Grandma and Grandpa, about Lucas, about the transplant fund in her name that's already helped 2 children get new hearts. I told her I miss her. And for the first time in 6 years, when I stood up and walked away from that cemetery, I smiled. The sun was setting. I had a therapy appointment in an hour. Daniel was at home making dinner. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom. Thank you for yesterday. Love you. I didn't reply right away, but I didn't delete it either. Progress. 4 plates, 4 chairs, a beginning. Not perfect, but real. And maybe that's enough. If there's one thing I want you to take from my story, it's this. Love is not a calculation. It's not a spreadsheet. It's not a return on investment. It's not about odds, percentages, or protecting what's practical. When my parents chose security over my daughter's chance at life, they believed they were making a rational decision. But love isn't rational. Love is a choice you make when it costs you something. I couldn't control what they chose, but I could control who I became. When I agreed to donate my bone marrow, it wasn't because the past was erased. It wasn't because the pain disappeared. It was because I refused to let bitterness define me. I refused to become someone who measures a life by its probability of success. You can't always fix what's broken. You can't always undo what was lost. But you can decide what kind of person you are when it matters most. And sometimes, choosing differently is the only justice you'll ever get. If this story moved you, I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done? Would you have walked away? Or would you have chosen differently? Leave a comment below. I read every one. And to the channel. Your support helps me keep sharing stories about family, hard choices, and the strength that it takes to rise above betrayal. If you know someone carrying the weight of family heartbreak or impossible decisions, share this story with them. Sometimes we just need to know we're not alone. Thank you for listening. I'm Melissa Stone, and I've learned that love is a verb, not a transaction.